Julian Plenti in Interview, and you know by now that it's Paul Banks from Interpol. This is his side project, but interestingly, this is something that he's been doing for quite some time. He's actually been Julian Plenti for some time, did stuff before he joined Interpol, and actually did gigs as Julian Plenti before he joined Interpol as well. So my first question to Paul, or to Julian, depending on the way you look at it, was why now? Why, after kind of doing stuff in the past and then having a bit of a hiatus, what was it about now that made it the right time for Julian Plenti to finally release a solo album?
There's nothing really about the time so much as it was always fairly pressing for me to do it, and now is when I finally got around to doing it. It's not so much that I felt now is the opportune moment by any means. It was just that it's something I've wanted to do for a number of years and finally just got the initiative, and I think a long enough period of time to actually get it done.
So what was the spur? What was the initiative? I noticed that you use quite a lot of computers and in getting the beats together and making the sounds. Was it suddenly that you realised I can do this and I can make it sound exactly how I want to make it sound?
It's pretty much exactly that, actually. Yeah, as you know, Julian Plenti has always been an acoustic thing. From the beginnings of it was always really acoustic, but a lot of the music that I was interested in writing, I just didn't feel was complete enough with only an acoustic guitar. And it wasn't until I became familiar enough with Logic and was able to create beats, as you said, and then orchestrate, more complicated arrangements, that's when that was sort of, I think, the final spark of like, oh yeah, now I can, as you said, get exactly the music that I hear in my head out, and that was, I think, it just gave me a lot of momentum.
And also talking about, about the sort of slight duality, that it is there in the album. When Julian Plenti is Skyscraper, you're talking about yourself sort of in the third person. It was interesting that with the video for Fun That We Have, you get to act that entire thing out completely.
The song is Games for Days, the video is for.
Oh, sorry, for Games for Days, sorry.
Did someone clue you into the fact that I was acting that out? Because
not at all. Well, no, you can see that. In the video, there's you've got there's the dark and there's the light, and you get to be both sides at the same time, and that must be an exciting thing for you to do.
Well, I'm just so glad that you did pick up on that, because that was we really worked on the treatment a lot, and you don't know until you make a video like that. Like, will people actually get that? That's what's happening here. I don't know if people are going to really recognize that it's supposed to be two characters, because they're both me. So I'm glad that you did see that. And yeah, it was a blast. That's the point. It's one big creative indulgence, and it's fun.
And the video also features Emily Haynes from Metric. How did the collaboration with her come about for the video?
Well, I think I had talked to the people at the label, and I said, I want a video with dancing babes. That was the one criteria I had. And so we were going to cast either a model or just somebody local to where we were going to go work. And the treatments that we had going around were a little bit highly erotic, and I was trying to pull it away from we were almost going into some dangerously cheesy terrain. Then I started going for the more film noir angle, and somebody brought up Emily, and I'd met Emily, and I knew that she was this really cool artist, and I was like, that is such a better idea than what we were looking for. Let's go with someone who's got a real personality, who's going to bring something to it and make it even more cinematic. And then, so I was excited before I got there, and then when I started working with her, I just thought she was so good. I thought she was really, really big on screen and just really owned the character, and the video absolutely would not have worked were it not for her in specific, and if not her, then a really great actress. It couldn't just be some babe. It had to be someone that could bring. I think she really made the video, to be honest.
So the other thing that I wanted to say, was for Julian Plenti, was that something which would be just about him? Would it at some point be something which would involve collaborating with other artists as well?
Yeah, I just did a TV show performance in the States, and I had this amazing band that I put together, and it was a guy from Rat-a-Tat, Mike from Rat-a-Tat, and Maddie from The Rapture, and my friend Charles Burst. And
who produced the album? Charles?
Charles Burst recorded the record.
Yeah.
He's an old friend of mine from college who's been in different bands that I was a big fan of. He's now a solo artist that goes under his own name. That to me was collaborative in itself, just working with other musicians and playing live, and that was a lot of fun. And yeah, absolutely. There's not really anything at all too strict about any of this stuff. Like, you know, what Julian Plenti will do next, I don't know. What I will do next, I don't know. It's just sort of, it's like a concept record, a solo project, a side project. It's a lot of things and nothing in particular, you know, nothing.
Damn, there goes my next question. Because my next question, I was going to say, well, you know, what next for Julian Plenti? Is there going to be any shows? Obviously, you mentioned that you did the TV show in the States. Is the desire there to do the shows? I mean, if the situation was right and the band was right and you got the people there, would you want to do more?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really enthused about this music and making more of this music and doing everything that goes into promoting. Yeah, absolutely. There is some shows that are just getting booked now, so there should be a tour.
Okay, so there are things on the horizon.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last thing I wanted to say, or wanted to ask, was just about what you're kind of listening to at the moment. I mean, trying to sort of divine exactly, you know, what sort of sounds you're listening to just by listening to the album is really difficult, because the album is so cinematic and so diverse that it's difficult to say, well, I'm pretty sure he was listening to this while he was making the album. It's difficult to actually make that assumption. So what's kind of musically in your head at the moment?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of hip-hop, man, so I've honestly been listening to a lot of Wu-Tang.
Really?
Wu-Tang just had a new record, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's pretty good.
And it's funny because there's obviously, I mean, it's not, Julian Plenti's Skyscraper is not, it doesn't sound like a hip-hop album, but you can tell that the sort of, the way that the soundscapes have been done have got that sort of dramatic thing that you get from, I guess, like, well, you know, the back of the backing on a Wu-Tang tune.
I think RZA is a genius. I think I totally stole a beat from RZA on one of the songs.
We won't tell him.
And I think, you know, in the kind of tradition of sampling, I think, you know, just without people, if you talk about hip hop, I think people just immediately go to the kind of gangster and the bravado of the lyrics and stuff. But if you talk about someone like RZA, you can listen to that music instrumentally, and it's like amazing atmospheres. That's what I think really speaks to me about good hip hop, is that, like, just there's a crazy depth. There's something that comes from sampling where you're traveling through time somehow. There's a weird nostalgic dreaminess to listening to old sounds in those contexts, and that I definitely did borrow from and have always been very interested in. It's like borrowed and or found sounds. I think they just give a depth and a dimension to music that's something extra.
Okay, one totally final question. It's kind of a good year for Julian's as far as solo project this year, because Julian Casablancas has got a solo project coming out as well. Do you think he's kind of sneaking in there to steal your thunder?
No. I did hear, I found out about that after I'd wrapped my record, and I was kind of glad that I'd wrapped, you know, before I heard.
You stole a march on him.
Well, I guess mine came out first. But I mean, he's a genius. He's one of the great, like, melody writers of our time, I think, and he's an incredible songwriter. He's the songwriter in the Strokes, is my impression. So the situation's a little different between, you know, my band and his band versus our solo project. So sure. I don't know what to expect from his solo record, but I'm sure it will be really impressive.
And you think there's room for the two Julians?
Yes.
Absolutely. Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.